Welcome back to the Piney Woods Homestead, y'all. Today is all about food shortages. We're going to be talking about that, y'all, because they are coming back again at some point. And so today we're going to discuss, for those of us that are living rural, this is specifically for us guys that are living rural. If you're not growing your own food, y'all, it's time to get at it because things are changing. Guys, we're going to do some stuff in the garden. We're going to pull out some tomato trellis, get some tilling done, some cover cropping done. But the whole way, we're going to talk about food shortages that are probably coming back, y'all. That's just a fact. It probably is. And things that we can do to help prepare for that. All right, guys, we appreciate you stopping in at the Piney Woods. We're going to get to it. Y'all, before we even get into the garden, let's talk meat. How many major meat companies now are owned by a foreign company? I ain't got to tell you, you can do the Google search on your own and find out where all these companies are headquartered out of. A lot of them are owned by foreign entities now. I know that Smithfield Food, for one, is owned out of country, way across the ocean. And who's to say that that won't end at some point? Who has forgotten the past couple of years where pigs, chickens, turkeys have been euthanized and put down because there was no way to get them through processing facilities, no way to get them to the consumer? Who remembers that? It's not the last time that that's going to happen. Potentially, it could happen again, y'all. We saw how it happened just a few short years ago. And I'm afraid that a lot of people have forgotten that. So if you are living rural, don't count on the Piggly Wiggly having what you need every single week. You may roll up in there one day and realize that the meat counter is almost bare. And unless you were living under a rock over the past few years, you've actually been into a supermarket and seen shelves that were bare or nearly bare. Not by any fault of their own, just because of supply issue, y'all. If you're living rural, go ahead, if you have the physical ability, and raise you some pigs and raise you some chicken, because you are guaranteed to have food that you can process on your own, on your property, and put into your freezer. And I know a lot of people will say, well, what about feed? Probably won't be able to get feed, or what if their electricity goes out? There's a lot of what ifs, y'all. There is no way to be 100% prepared for every single what if. But you can prepare by growing out some livestock. And pork and poultry is the simplest livestock to grow out on your little small rural acreage. Hogs are not that hard to process. If you've ever deer hunted and cleaned your own deer growing up, you can clean a hog. Chickens are easy to process too if you have some equipment. It's harder to do it straight by hand plucking, but you know, you can do it if you got to. If you want to eat, you can do it. Let's just say a pig, for instance. A lot of people are like, how much is it going to cost me to raise that hog? Well, here you go. This is for us in our neck of the woods. We artificial inseminate, we have good genetics. And that's another thing, y'all. Don't just think this $25 pig that's for sale is going to be what I want to grow out and eat, because it's the Heinz 57 varieties, y'all. You may end up putting a whole lot more feed into that animal to get it up to an actual butcher weight. It's not going to have the genetics. And when I say that, it's not been bred for carcass yield. A lot of what you're going to find out here today is not put out by a reputable breeder, farmer, what have you. Years and years ago, y'all, the old way, when farmers were raising their own pigs, they made sure to keep a good genetic line going because they knew that that hog should take X amount of pounds of feed to feed out to a topping weight. And yes, they grew them a whole lot bigger back then for lard and all that, but I'm talking the last 40 years. For those of us that are still doing it, we are raising out a hog in 6 months, 180 days, y'all. 180 days gets us to a live weight of between 225 and 250 on this specific breed of hog, the Hereford. And that carcass yield is going to give you, for a family of 4 or a family of 2, it's going to give you close to a year's worth of pork after you've done the butchering on your own at home. So let's say you spend $150, give or take, on a high quality, good genetic pig, whether it's a Hereford, a Berkshire, a Duroc, something along those lines. And I'm not talking purebred. Even these pigs are crossed, y'all. That's how the Hereford came about. A cross makes a stronger pig. But when you cross it so many times and inbreed it, then you have problems. But let's just talk about cost real quick, y'all. Let's say you spend $100 or $150 on a quality pig, 8 weeks old, weaned from its mother, on feed, ready to go to put into your woodlot or your grass pasture or whatever you have. You're going to put at least, on average, 700 pounds of high quality feed between the way we do it, whole kernel corn and good hog pellet. You're going to put that in it over that 6-month time frame. And right now, we are able to grow out our hogs for around 30 cents a pound, live weight. That's what it cost us, y'all. So that's not that bad, y'all. Now that's live weight. After you've processed, packaged, gotten all your different varieties of cut, you may have $3.50 a pound in that whole hog. But remember, that's whole hog. Pork chops, bacon, sausage, roasts, shanks, all that, y'all, that you can use throughout the year to eat, y'all, without having to rely on the Piggly Wiggly or any of the others. Y'all, we won't even talk about inflation. So those costs that I just told you, that's subject to change, y'all. Think about it. If we were in a conflict with another country that owns the majority of your pork or poultry, do you think that we're going to get that pork and poultry for the same price? Or even at all, y'all? Just food for thought, guys, food for thought. We'll do some swapping on the tractor for implements, and we're going to get down to the garden. All right, y'all, the first thing I got to do is take all this stuff down. Electric fence on this side so I can get in with the tractor and till. Tomato trellis, the whole 9 yards has got to come down and come out so I can till and cover crop. So don't blink or you might miss it. Guys, before we even get into cover cropping, let me just say, I will never, ever put up cattle panels for tomatoes again. My granny always said, one of them said, never say never. I'm saying never. Y'all, it's fine if you're just a home gardener and you want to put 1 or 2 up for tomatoes, but when you've got a 125-foot row of it, and then I look up when I'm almost done and I see the other side up here that we did, I'm about to start crying, y'all, because it's a lot of labor putting those things up. So I've got some plans for those cattle panels, hopefully this winter, if the weather's good, to repurpose those for something that's a little bit more permanent around here instead of something to have to take up, put down. Now the trellis with the high tensile steel and the posts in the ground, That's how we're going to do them from now on, y'all. That is the way to go. So y'all, some of you have gone out and bought cattle panels because we told you to. That's great. It's great, like I said, for a small garden, but y'all, we're feeding the local community that's willing to shop with us in the farm market and ourselves. But now get on to cover cropping. I've got roughly 2,500 feet that I'm going to cover crop today. Normally I use a mix that has daikon radish, some greens, some winter peas, things of that nature. But on this strip, I'm using a Dixie crimson clover and a wheat blend. It's about 45% crimson clover and some winter wheat. So I'm gonna use that on this strip today, and then I'll just track it in with the gator. Y'all have seen me do that before. But y'all, back to the subject matter of today's video, and that is the potential for more food shortages. It is always a potential nowadays, it seems like. And if you follow much news, depends on where you get your news, you may see that there is a potential for shortages. So if you live in the country like we do, y'all, try to find the time to grow you some food, whether it is your meat or your vegetables, so that you can have something in your pantry, in your freezer, in your canning jars to ward off against inflation and supply chain issues. It's just better to be safe than sorry, guys. And y'all, we've said it before, we're not a prepping channel by any means. We don't go out and buy up a bunch of stuff and put up. When we have a little extra money, if we need a little extra toilet tissue or something like that, we might get a little bit. But for the most part, we live like you, or most of you, just on a month-to-month, week-to-week really basis. But as far as food goes, y'all, we put up as much as we can. Usually a year's supply, sometimes 2 years supply, depending on how much the Lord blesses us with that year as far as produce in the garden and how well the pigs and the chickens do. But guys, be thinking on these things and be aware of what's going on in the world and kind of hedge against it. If you live in the country, be growing some food, y'all. It's just a smart thing to do. Guys, y'all have a good day, a great week, and Lord willing, and the creek don't rise too high. We'll see you on the next one.